Much of the allure that Edward Yang as an artist can be attributed to his short but precise catalogue, who let his accents regarding the commercialization of cinema do the heavy lifting than just using mere words. Growing up in Taipei, he primarily focused on exploring the urban life of middle-class families, how the society was adapting to the changes, and if all of it was openly accepted or not, analyzing the lifestyle and relationships of various age groups and the struggles from opting for modern ideas in a space that was in a transitional period with its traditional values. And he did all of that in an insightful and poetic manner, which can be easily evident from his preferred visual style. Long takes with fixed camera that often focused on empty spaces or cityscapes while avoiding close-ups, and a more composed pacing that, while appearing to be free-flowing at first glance, was thoroughly planned and sequenced, almost effortless with its storytelling and a unique approach to the slice-of-life format, commencing from an eventful occasion that quickly introduces or establishes almost everything that is necessary and concluding in a similar manner, creating a loop of sorts that still possesses an open-ended finale which doesn't answer every question. That uncertainty is what makes it more impactful and authentic, as that's how life usually transpires and what makes our journeys so special. He never tried to offer any solutions to the bigger questions in life because that is not possible or that simple. However, he successfully managed to capture the essence of existing with all those queries that can't be figured out but can only be lived through. Encapsulating human existence in its truest sense isn't easy or even feasible. It is almost like trying to take a picture of an airborne mosquito. However, with Yi, Yang somehow did it. An expansive tale that covers almost every stage and event from one's life, and it also happens to be his last cinematic project. So all of the elements that he developed and experimented with for his entire career is perfected in here, summarizing his direction method and everything that he was renowned for, beginning with a marriage and concluding with a funeral. And between those polar ends of our lives, we witness various occurrences which, when combined, provides us with endless and impactful memories that forms our identity. Let's take it one at a time. The grandmother, while not having a lot of active screen time, does dictate the flow of certain activities and plays a prominent role in the development of other family members, as her presence alone is quite vital to them. And her succumbing into a coma after a stroke not only deeply affects them, but alters their life or makes them reconsider everything. Like the older brother and his wife, where the former is caught in a cruel loop created by his struggling company, taking advantage of his honesty and restrained mannerisms so they can act out their scummy business tactics to strike a sweet deal rather than being competent with their decisions, relying on him to play mind games with another sincere individual. He becomes the scapegoat for his company's lack of direction and only hope to find them a magic solution while they stick with dated ideas mainly because of the false sense of security that it provides, even if it doesn't yield them much profit under such competition, afraid to go with innovative projects and the risk that comes with it. Dealing with this constant disorder gradually takes a toll on his health, even if he denies the severity of the situation. But this also creates the possibility to relive his lost young love, separated for a long time. But both parties still cares about each other, vividly recalling the unfortunate day where they took different paths, by choice or desperation. The reasons, silly or serious, don't matter anymore, as that cannot change the outcome. Living in unhappy relationships while they yearn for each other, finding solace in the fond memories from their youth years, which either failed because of fear of commitment or ruining everything by taking it to the next stage, not the absence of love, leaving them to continue their current status no matter how much they regret not taking the second chance of being together. Yang exploring the persistent theme of failing past love and broken present relationships, as the older brother resumes his frigid relation with his wife, who takes the worst hit after her mother-in-law becomes bedridden, breaking down from the sudden realization that her entire existence has been nothing but repeating the same activities for uncountable days, living a blank life, as she says herself. So, in a typical fashion, she decides to follow one of those dubious spiritual leaders, going under their shelter in the search for answers, only to leave with nothing more than she went with. And her brother-in-law's marital situation isn't ideal either. His bride doesn't look that delighted in their marriage ceremony. And how can she when his previous partner is still close with him and his family members? Even though they aren't together anymore, various circumstances makes them cross each other's path. The biggest factor behind it being him borrowing money from his brother and failing to return it in time, as he invested it on a person with questionable intent. A superstitious individual who decides everything on the basis of his luck and has a tendency to lie or conceal certain aspects about his life, souring almost every connection in his life by his own shortcomings. With that being said, there are numerous other relationships in the film consisting of varying age groups and in different stages or forms. Much like how old love briefly rekindles, we witness the blossoming of young love. The older brother's daughter begins to fall for her friend's former lover, and this is where the parallels between the father and children is made visibly evident. Repeating incidents with identical results and smooth transitions between their conversations. Even though it doesn't last for a long time and the outcome of it is quite heinous, the moments shared are quite tender and full of affection. And she needed that fondness after the trauma that resulted from what happened to their grandmother. This, along with various other scenes, leaves us with the thought that we only know the half-truths regarding other people, merely an onlooker to their lives and stories, like the intricacies of multiple affairs of their neighbor and the violent fights, or the always distant and intelligible disagreements that her daughter has with her boyfriend. We don't hear or even see anything in detail as the film lets our imagination run wild. And in the midst of all this, there is the son of the older brother, introverted in nature and wise beyond his years with acute observations of human behavior, and spearheads the philosophical discussions with his inventive child mind. Nonetheless, it is almost futile to discuss or dissect this film, as the vastness can't be condensed without overlooking so many little details that makes it special. Much like life, those certain moments can't be expressed as beautifully as they are remembered.
就像他们都说你走了，你也没有告诉我你去了哪里，所以我觉得那一定是我们都知道的地方。伯伯，我不知道的事情太多了，所以你知道我以后想做什么吗？我要去告诉别人他们不知道的事情，给别人看他们看不到的东西。我想这样一定天天都很好玩，说不定有一天我会发现你到底去了哪里，到时候我可不可以跟大家讲，叫大家一起过来看你呢？
Although the previous film is regarded as Yang's best and deservedly gets more praises, there is something about the succinctness of Taipei Story that makes it quite appealing, which is further accentuated by the visuals and overall look of the film, creating an absorbing atmosphere that can't be looked away from. Partially because this one heavily focuses on the city life, along with the aspiration, loneliness, and a sense of isolation that comes from such a heedless environment. In here, we follow a couple who are planning for their future, steered by the well-to-do young woman with striking glamour. However, that confident individual shrivels up and transforms into a totally different person in the presence of her father, an authoritative man with orthodox beliefs who doesn't approve her working in nature or moving out from the house without getting married. So she simply gets relegated to bring him a beer and helplessly does other typical gendered chores. His actions and her expressions speaks in great volumes to the sort of dynamic they have. However, what's even more disheartening is her mother silently working in the kitchen, who is aware of the issues of her husband, but doesn't utter a single word about it. And even when her daughter directly or indirectly mentions about it, she simply deflects the question. A very human response when confronted with an unsavory query. Either she has accepted that reality or doesn't want to discuss about it anymore, suffering all alone and left to serve him till her final days. But both of them have endured lots of abuse from him, which led her to the soul-crushing reality about the unfortunate difficulties that comes with being a girl under such setting. Hence, her fashion and mannerisms have always been quite boy-like, and the major reason behind her being so adamant to relocate away from him. But that doesn't go as planned after her company files for bankruptcy, leaving her in a tough position and brings forth multiple complications, particularly the downtime from being unemployed, which has its negative and positive effects. Ample amount of time to figure out where her life is heading, but also makes her realize that her love life is on the brink of collapsing and weakens with the passing time, mainly because of the different viewpoints they have towards life in general, leading to her spending time with a young boy, done in order to cope with the loneliness and lack of stability that is plaguing her for days. However, that momentary peace is quickly broken after she comes to the realization that the young nomadic lifestyle isn't made for her. A decision that she took in a moment of melancholy transformed into a major mistake that comes back to haunt her. Although the couple are quite distant from each other, often not done deliberately, but those moments are what kept them apart. There are huge parallels between their lives. From brief scenes like him feeling alienated amidst her business buddies, to more obvious ones when she tries her best to aid her mother and sister, and has a colleague who is interested in her, who himself is stuck in an unhappy marriage. Similarly, he agrees to financially assist her father, even though he doesn't have much funds to spare, or how much she resents that decision of his, knowing all too well that he is prone to make financial mistakes, take advantage of people, and then blame others for his downfall. This sympathetic act of his isn't going to do him any good, but he still does it because he is his only option. And then there is him lending money to his childhood friend who is trying his best to feed his family while his neglectful wife is busy gambling. A man who got the worst cards dealt to him and is forced to continue with it no matter how dire it gets. His kindness is exploited, but he fights that fight for the sense of justice. However, it's the return of his former lover that deteriorates his relationship with her, an aspect from his past that occupies her mind. And why wouldn't it when he lies about the trip where he briefly met her, a trip which she thought he wouldn't return from. This, along with the lack of communication, no signs of being concerned about her whereabouts, and being emotionally and physically distant from her, makes everything worse. Choosing to live in a realm of fantasy, he drifted away from everyone else. They changed, but he remained the same, caught in a crossroad where he doesn't know where to go or even what to say. And unlike others, he doesn't consider marriage or emigrating as the all-encompassing cure. It is often a dream that is too good to be true, much like the relationship which abruptly ends after a disaster. Lessons were learned from the mistakes, and there was a glimmer of hope for them. But maybe it wasn't meant to be, as she is shown to silently gaze over the window and ponders about the events that transpired so far, with no other choice than marching on forward.
在响，鼓声在鸣，于洪开成了众人宠爱的孩子，陈红星是大家的心肝宝贝。比赛结束了，中华少年棒球队终于以5A 比0的成绩荣获1969年世界少年棒球赛的奖标。胜利的欢呼。
I rarely judge a film on the basis of how much the story or characters resonate with my own life. But A Brighter Summer Day perfectly represents everything regarding the adolescent age group with a level of warmth and homely feel to it that is simply unparalleled. On top of that, it is Yang's most politically charged film, being inspired from real-life events, with huge emphasis on the aftermath of the war that rampaged their country and how violence found its way to infiltrate the lives of numerous individuals, mainly young adults or teenagers who are on the search of their identity, a sense of community and security that is necessary at that age, and that is explored through the journey of a boy amongst various others in this grand tale about growing up. Coming from a humble middle-class family, we find them in a stage where everything seems to be heading in a grim direction. His grades begin to dip, and he gets transferred to the night school, which only allows him to be closer to the gang culture, mainly formed by neighboring schools, with the students defending their turfs. The usual machismo and fearless nature of young boys, intimidating the physically and mentally weak to their advantage, albeit quite common, their surrounding makes it even more extreme, and we witness its severity when his words spread like wildfire to create rumors about his classmates that has far-reaching consequences in a gang that is lacking a leader to keep everything in control. But more importantly, it introduces us to the girl who used to be the girlfriend of their sin's runaway boss, and her spending time with the boy generates lots of trouble for both of them. They cherish each other's company, but keep their distance, knowing the ramifications that comes with them being seen together. Hence, they're quite reluctant to advance what is going between them, partly because of a lost lover whose prominence is still present even with his absence from the scene. Interestingly, both of them are quite alike. Honorable and righteous individuals with idealist viewpoints who want to bring some sort of change to the world. However, such qualities or hefty goals aren't going to be valuable in such a place or be achievable all alone. He, along with his father, hold major influence in the formation of his identity. The former has since moved on from the trivial gang-related politics and even regrets being involved in them rather than focusing on other important and expansive matters. No matter how revered he still is, his hiatus created a power vacuum, and people began to show their true colors or become driven by monetary gain with no morality in sight, which leads to his early demise. And his death directly affects the boy in how he views everything around him. And then there is his father, who usually has good advices and believes in commendable principles regarding honesty and integrity, even if they aren't applicable to where he resides. However, he does boast some misogynistic ideas and usually disregards the concerns of his wife. And unluckily, she isn't alone. Women are continuously abused or objectified by almost everyone. This conduct and his father being framed for espionage doesn't help the development of his mentality, and all of it is worsened by his violent friend, whose entire personality is using girls to satisfy his physical needs. They are not meant to be given any more thought than that. When a person is under such a clusterfuck of a guidance in an environment driven by male ego and violence, the result is bound to be grim. Virtuous, judgmental, selfish, and possessive. These and many other traits destroys the tenderness between him and the girl, whose life has been stormed with tragedies, from her mother's declining health to their constant financial troubles, who doesn't even get enough time to deal with her sorrows and pain. She knows that her situation can't be altered that easily. However, she still accepts the assistance from the boy, being hopeful about their future and tries her best to be positive and understanding, only to get betrayed in the worst possible way, as we witness the most awful outcome of implied events that can't be or aren't confirmed. He was never able to accept her past with different partners, reasoning his opinions by stating that he is defending her honor so people don't look down upon her when he is the only person who passes such comments. In his eyes, only he can make her better. So, not a lot different than all the other boys who only act nice in order to receive something in return. She doesn't appreciate it at all and doesn't want to convert herself to his ideal version. So, he kills her. To him, everything about her was fabricated and shameful, which apparently deserved to be punished. A troubled youth who gets influenced in all the wrong ways. And no matter how severe the final result was, they were just easily impressionable children who were a product of their environment. However, their select actions not only affected them, but everyone around them, as a boy loses his future and a girl loses her life.
9班翘课就是礼拜6了。
不要了，以后我们有的是时间。